Okay. I don't know what happened. We had a bit of a malfunction there. I literally plugged in something and it like overloaded the CPU, even though everything was running well below. Just one of those fun things that happen when you're live streaming. So the rest of the interview, there was only a few more minutes left. That will be uploaded separately as part of a thing. Damn. I hate when things like that happen. And live streaming, there's always going to be crazy issues that you can't really foresee. But for now, we'll be moving on to the next segment, which is... This is going to be a continuing segment. Basically because making money with your music as a musician or as a songwriter, sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta sell albums, I gotta sell the music, you know? Or like, I gotta make it from streaming, or I gotta make it from YouTube views. Like, that's the way to do it. And that is not. It just isn't. That's one thing, and it's so small that it couldn't even sustain you even if you had a video with 1 million views. Like, that'd be really nice, but do you know how much money that would actually get you? Not a whole lot. Like, divide 1 million by 1,000, and it's possibly even less than that. So what we gotta start thinking about is ways to diversify our income streams, our revenue streams as musicians. So it's not just the act of, I have a record and I only sell the record, or I only make money from gigs. That's two different ways to make music. So we're going to go through a whole series. I think we'll probably get up to like 120, but we'll be doing like 10 a week. And I think we'll make it like its own specific segment. So we'll still get kind of like, 5 tips for songwriting for dolphins, but this week I started putting it together and I was just like, you know what? This would be a good continuing series segment to have. So this week, 10 ways to make money as a musician, part 1. So the first one, obviously YouTube channel, but share a link to buy your music. The dumbest thing you could do is try and make money. I already said this, but making money just on the views. If you're making that AdSense money, that's nothing. That's pittance. So if you've got a YouTube channel and you've got 100 videos on it of your band playing or different versions of songs that you guys have, like lyric versions and trippy visualizer versions and stuff, where's the link to buy your music? Is it in the description? Is it above the fold? Like, can you get to it and access it without having to like click, the little 3 buttons to bring up more of the description? So you got to monetize a bunch of other things. Make sure that your music is available to get. And YouTube is a promotional tool. It's not necessarily a revenue generator. The idea is that it's an advertisement for your stuff. People find your video, they like your video, and there's a link to buy your music. Now the thing sells the thing. The video sells the album. If someone comes and they're just like, oh, cool, and they watch it, and you get like 1/100th of a cent, rock. Or they come and they watch it and they find a link to buy your music and they buy your $150 package that has vinyl and t-shirts and exclusive content. Right? So always have links on all of your things to buy your music. That's number one. Number two, obviously this is a little tougher these days, but going on a house concert tour, you don't want to be playing basements and living rooms necessarily, but people have patio parties, get-togethers, barbecues, stuff like that. Being able to set up some kind of situation where you can find people and play house shows. Venues aren't necessarily going to book you when they don't know you and you don't have a draw. So how do you build a following in a city that isn't your own? You got to find these cool places of people, exchange your music, say like, hey, like this is the kind of music we play. We've got some covers and stuff, but also like here's some original stuff. And people will book you. We've done it. It's a lot of fun. People really appreciate it. And you get a bunch of fans out of the situation. There's a few websites. I know one that was kind of up there ended up being kind of shady. So you got to do your due diligence. I will do a bit more research and put a link to a few of these websites that are recommended for finding people who are looking to have bands come and play their house shows. But obviously, given the circumstances, please be very careful. You know, avoid getting into a situation where you're not social distancing. Make sure it's outside, that kind of thing. But this is still a possibility. You just got to work around it. So, number 3, being awarded grants from government or nonprofit groups. There are people that are really good at writing grants. They know how to write it for you. You can probably, as a musician or songwriter, just post on your Facebook and say, hey, is anybody good at this? And you'll get a few responses. I know a few people that are really good at it. If you want, you can message me and I can talk to them and hook you guys up. Obviously, Canadian and Ontario based, they that's the stuff they know. Rules are different everywhere, but there's usually money just sitting there waiting to be picked up for arts and music and stuff. And if you can prove that this is what I want to do, this is the thing, you have a budget put together, it's like a business plan. But to make art, there's money to fund you for your artistic projects. So you can't just say, I want to make music. You got to show them that, okay, this is specifically for making an album. Here's my money, my itinerary. This is my vision for what I want to do. This is kind of the project, you know, like it's this type of music, whatever. And then there's money that's there for you to be able to continue making music and writing music. Number 4, publish a book. It's really not as hard as you think. Oh, what's that? 100 chord progression formulas by Dan Weiss came to show up. This was, making the book took a lot of work. I had to figure out exactly what I was going to do it on. And it's a very like hyper niche, weird thing to sell a book on, but the knowledge is there. People are buying it. People really like it. Like being able to flip through, be like, oh, here's a bunch of, white balance is way off. Here's a bunch of chord progressions. There, that's kind of a shot you can see. There we go. I'll just angle it weird. I need a new webcam and I need to carefully adjust the white balance on it. I was struggling with it before. This is always going to be a work in progress, regardless. Oh, I can flip through and find all these chord progressions for every key, and they're written out for me, and I can just play them. Like, what a novel idea. And now I have a book that I'm selling. That's another stream of revenue. So if there's something about music that you can put together, you can write about music theory, helping people out. You can write about, your own experiences, a certain type of music that you're very familiar with. Write something about your instrument, maybe with a weird twist. Like find a way that you can kind of niche it a bit so that it's not just like Guitar for Dummies. There's 1,000 Guitar for Dummies books besides the official one, and they're just waiting to get sued. But find a way to kind of use your musical knowledge or your experience and publish a book. It doesn't even have to be big. It doesn't even have to be physical. I did that through Kindle Direct Publishing, but you can just make an ebook, post it on your Google Drive, have a specific link for it, and people can pay you to get access to the ebook. Like $9. I'm doing that as well. So that's a way to be a writer. You don't even have to really be a writer. Just put some stuff down, some knowledge, put it in little cute infographics, and you got yourself a book. Whatever you want to write it on, that's your business. Number 5, earning performance royalties. Did you know that playing your music live can get you money? Obviously, but besides the actual take that you would get from a cut at the door or your performance payment agreement or whatever, it's a public performance of your work. If you register your work with, in Canada, it's SOCAN. In America, it's either BMI or ASCAP. But when you register your songs, that's a registered original work. So if you wrote that song and it belongs to you and it's being performed in a venue, you get performance royalties, the same as if it was played on radio or television. So you keep track of that. You have, all your set lists for every place you've ever played, and you submit that stuff to your PRO, your performance rights organization, and they keep track of that, and you get a check. So it's a bit of administrative work, but it's a small little stream of income that can come together with all these other streams of income, and it makes a difference. It's better than not collecting it and just you're leaving money on the table. Silly. Number 6, organize a niche music conference. Maybe you're really into left-handed mandolin or playing a modified what's that thing? It's not a harmonica, it's like a keyboard you blow into. This is gonna bug me. But there's a lot of people that love those things. And it's weird and it's niche. Have a virtual conference for people that love to do that. How do you do that? There's a lot of steps that go into it. I'm currently in the planning stages of an online conference for infinite musician mentality stuff. I want to have people, guest speakers. We're going to put on a summit, and hopefully that'll be a few months down the road. But you can attend virtually and watch people's interviews and speak about different musical stuff. So that's something that I'm putting together. What could you do? I mean, you could put on a banjo players conference and find a bunch of people to speak about it, and people would be interested. You advertise, get people to pump it out there, and, sell tickets for attendance, or even have it be free attendance. And if they want permanent access to the videos or some extra stuff, then you charge like $20. There you go. Bit of legwork and planning and organization, but it's another thing that can boost your brand awareness, get some chops for organizing events, which is a big thing. Marketing chops as well. And beyond that, make a bunch of really good contacts and make some moolah while you do it. Another crazy idea, right? Number 7, songwriting and composing for other people or other projects. You're writing music for yourself. Why not try writing for other people? There are tons of music groups, and every day there are hundreds of people asking, can somebody write me this? Somebody write me this. A lot of people are going to expect you to work for free. But, if you do it a few times and you don't have a portfolio yet, Maybe you do it a few times just to show and have results with somebody and they're happy, and then you can use that as a reference so that when you do go and try and make some stuff happen, you have testimonials. But songwriting for other people, sometimes there's singers that don't know how to play music. Sometimes there's musicians that don't know how to sing, and you're a singer. You can go out and put that shit together, and now you're collaborating. Or even, this completely blanked. Maybe it's like, we're putting a video together and we need some background music or whatever. You put that together in 20 minutes on your workstation on your computer, and boom, now there's video. Or maybe somebody's looking for something for a documentary or something like that, There's always opportunities that you can be writing music, and obviously, be smart. Don't just give your stuff away. Make sure that you maintain your rights if at all possible, and register your works so that, say you did music for a movie, every time that movie gets played on TV, you collect money for your music being in that movie. Think about it. Number 8, crowdfunding for your next song or your next video. I talked about how we crowdfunded a bunch of money for our album, and it pre-sold the album. So it was the cost of making the album was being pre-sold. Like it just, the actual making of the album was able to be funded by people buying the album in advance, which is amazing. So take that trip, have a bit of a following. Obviously, you can't just post it and hope for the best. There's a lot of really good articles on sites like Indiegogo where they take you through step-by-step processes and how you should organize a launch. There's a lot that goes into it, especially if you want to be successful. But it's better than having no money to put together a music video or record a song or whatever. It's like applying for a grant. You still need to be held accountable, but it's not as like stingy and having a crazy intense business plan. But you need to put those sort of things forward and show exactly what people's money is going for, and offer really good things for them to, be incentivized to buy from you. Number 9, acting as a spokesperson for a company. Maybe you really like a certain type of guitars or guitar strings, or maybe you really like a keyboard workstation. You don't have to be super famous. Maybe you just have a really interesting story behind your work. Sell that. Sell you as a musician wanting to talk about stuff that you really like, the gear that you like. Don't just be a whore, just take any money and do soulless advertising just for the sake of money. Look for the gear that you really like using, so you are authentically talking about it in a way that's positive. And also, number 10, Adam talked about this in his interview today, busking. Perform on a street corner with a tip jar. It's not, people think of like this subway musician who like bothers people, but in Toronto, you have to audition to play in the subways. There's a program, like in place. You have to be actually good to get out and busk. Hamilton, they fought hard for the right to be able to do it because they tried to consider it panhandling, which even still, panhandling shouldn't be illegal, but that's a different story. But the idea of you can just take your guitar, go downtown and play some songs, and guess what? If you're good, people are happy that you're good. They don't want to be bothered by somebody who sucks. So get your talent out there. People throw bills at you, man. I made like $100 in a day before playing music for like an hour or two. Sometimes you really got to grind, play all day. But if it's a nice day and you got some time on your hands, grab your instrument, even grab a couple friends, put on a little show for people, and they'll respect you for it. So we'll have 10 more next week for you. But I thought that was a good little segment to kind of pull out of the ether. So our next happy little deal here. Gonna get rid of me. Where is this thing? We are going to talk about scale degrees. Scale degrees. What does that mean? Why? Who's talking? You know, what is this? What magic? What trickery? I don't need to learn music theory. It's dumb. I'm pretty sure it hit my sister with a car. Well, you're wrong on all those counts. Music theory can't drive, but it can make you a better musician and songwriter. And this scale degrees is one of the foundational, like, most important things that you can learn. If you learn anything about music, make it scale degrees. This has so many more uses built on top of it that it will just turn your understanding of music and your ability to move freely with music just into the stratosphere. So let's get rid of my mug. And let's look at scale degrees. Do we still have keyboard here? Ding. Yeah, cool. I'm trying something new. It didn't work last week, but I think I edited in after the fact. So scale degrees. What are they? Well, let's figure that out. Let's pull up our keyboard of knowledge. Nope. Let's do something different instead this time. Let's look at C major. Here's our notes in C major. That's the key. And all these letter names run in sequence with each other. And that gives us the major scale. These are the notes that we choose when we make chords in C major. If we make a melody in C major, we use these notes in some kind of sequence, you know? But scale degrees are basically numbers that you assign to each letter named note in the scale. And why would you do something like that? Well, we'll figure that out. But simple enough. C is 1, D would be 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, and B is 7 in the key of C major. So as you can see, it's just the interval distance that they are from the tonic or the root, the first note, whatever note the key that we're in. We call that the tonic in music theory speak. So how do we go about using this? I mean, let's take a look. So there's our keyboard of knowledge. It's hiding. So in the key of C major, there we go. We've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now what say we were going to make a cute little melody here in the key of C major. So if we were going to do, let's see, E, A, so it's weird the sustain's not on this. So E, A, D, G, C. Simple enough. So there it is. E, A, D, G, C in the key of C major. Now, what happens if, say, the person you were writing the song for said, you know, no, I don't want it in C major. No, thank you, please. It only makes me sneeze. It's too happy. Let's put it in a different key or something else. No C major. Maybe we'll put it in A minor. But I learned it in C major. Right? How do you not scuffle? How do you not stumble at this thought of having to play that same melody pattern in a different key or a different mode or anything. So let's think about these scale degrees in the key of C major. If you think about it, E is the third note. It's the third interval away from the root, the tonic, the first note of the key. So that third interval is going to be the same. It's going to act the same in any key. The note names will change, but the third will still function as a third, no matter where you put it. I mean, in a minor key, it'll be a minor third, but it's still the third. So it'll function the same way, same with the 6, the 2, the 5, the 1. So let's go back to C major here, and let's figure out the actual scale degrees of these notes. E, A, D, G, C. So, yeah, E is 3, A is 6, D is 2, G is 5, and C is 1. So 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. That's our pattern for our melody. And we just take that into a different key. Now we have A minor, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we can very easily move that same pattern into another key without having to figure out, well, okay, it's this, and maybe it's this, and sitting and staring at our hands or our instrument like we don't know what we're doing. That is not a situation you want to be in, trust me. So, in the key of A minor, that same melody transposed into this key is C, 3, F, 6, B, 2, E, 5, and A, 1. So we've changed keys. We've changed it from a major to a minor. Like, that sounds very different, obviously. The C major one. And the A minor one. But it's essentially the same melody. It's the same pattern, but it's doing different things. And we're able to access that very easily because of the scale degrees. If you learn it by the numbers, then you can move it freely into other keys, other modes. You know, if we wanted to take that same melody and play it in a really weird one, like B Locrian mode. The B. So it would be 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. It sounds really weird and crusty, but it's still the same basic melody pattern. So now you can take that number system and move it around and get a bunch of different melodies, even though you're kind of playing the same melody. You started in a different place, and now you have something different to work with. Maybe this is how you can go about transforming your melodies into something that isn't so boring or exciting or just weird, looking for inspiration. And the same thing goes for chord progressions too. If we wanted that chord progression, it was in C major. Let's see here. Let's say we had E to A to D to G and then C. And same thing, we wanted to take that chord progression and move it into A minor. Well, it was 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So in A minor, it's 3, C, F. Sorry, this is a dead note here. That's 6. B is 2. E is 5. And A is 1. So we just took a major chord progression and made it minor in a different key. That is the importance of scale degrees. That's the power of scale degrees. You can move these things around and do so much with them because you're not caught up in the little details of, oh, it's all these different letter names and, oh, there's no point of reference. When you bring it down to the relativity of just the numbers are going to stay the same no matter what. So you can use that to your advantage, and instead of memorizing a million different things, you memorize a lot less, and then you can move it around, change it, and do whatever you want. Scale degrees. Learn it. Boop, it's me again. Mario. I actually watched a really good Netflix documentary series about retro gaming, because I'm a big retro video game nerd. And it was voiced by Charles Martinet, the guy who is the voice of Mario. You know, the "It's me, Mario." He does not sound like that in real life. Shocking, right? He doesn't walk around and it's just like, "Hey, wife, let's date." You know, it's way different. But a little bit, you can hear it and you're like, okay, yeah, he can probably slam that voice. And it leads me to wonder how much other things he's done voices for that we secretly, don't know about. What else haven't you told us, Charles? Anyway, we've talked about scale degrees. Let's talk about our record of this week. This one is pretty vastly different from last week's record of choice, but that's also a part of my vinyl collection. It's all over the place. I love very different types of music. So I believe what we had Revolver, and we had like the Beatles, and we had Chicago Transit Authority. This week we have Ghostface Killah featuring Raekwon Capadonna. Basically, like 75% of Wu-Tang Clan is on this album. Iron Man. This is from 1996. This album is incredible. I like to call this the best. I like to call this the best Wu-Tang album, even though it's a Ghostface album. No disrespect to Ghostface as an artist. This is his second album, and lyrically, with his flow, he commands a lot more. Like, he really comes into his own in this album, and it's not me being disrespectful and saying it's the best Wu-Tang album. He knocks it out of the park. There's a lot of really good features on here, but it's also kind of I guess like a mark of his confidence that he would allow so much Wu-Tang like on the tracks. Like, and they're all over it. They're spitting other verses and they're helping out. RZA produced the whole album, and it's great. And he's very confidently leading Wu-Tang in a situation like this, which, you don't really normally see all that much. But this album, I mean, I always really liked hip hop in kind of a weird way that I didn't really realize how much I liked it. Like, I was a huge Beastie Boys fan, obviously, because I'm a white dude. But I also, I was like, Tupac was big when I was growing up. and you would hear that, and the songs he sampled were kind of familiar because he sampled them, and I liked that, and it was what was popular. Same with Biggie. Like, they both got murdered like the summer I was going into grade 6, I believe, and their albums were huge. So hip hop was very much at the forefront. But I didn't get in on this album until, God, I think it was 2006. I happened to open a CD case, and this was in it instead of the album I was looking for. And I realized, going all the way back to my prom night in grade 12, was when that switch happened, because I remember my buddy Grant at the time had this album. So it ended up in my CD case and stayed there for like 4 years until I found it and was like, I'm going to listen to this, and threw it on, and I was just like, whoa. So the production, the music that's happening behind it, there's a lot of really interesting samples and things thrown together. The RZA is a genius. The way that he puts together hip hop tracks, I mean, it's so distinct. There was a lot of people kind of half-assing it to be able to just get some beats. Obviously, I'm not talking about like Tribe Called Quest or, Black Sheep or anything like that. And the Beastie Boys very much did a lot of sampling, but they also played a lot of their own instruments to get samples as well. And it was done in such an artful way that you could kind of barely recognize all of the things that they were sampling. They took a lot of stuff, made something completely new with it, which is so commendable, as opposed to just literally taking a Michael Jackson song and then poorly rapping over it. Like, that's different, So there's a whole different vibe that goes on an album like this, and like the lyricism is gritty and real and raw and just like so powerful. Like, I was immediately drawn in, and this is actually the album that inspired me to start writing my own like rhymes and rap lyrics and stuff like that. I was just so taken aback by how powerful this was that I needed to kind of start doing it and start trying. It gave me the confidence to kind of give myself that permission to be like, I am just a Led Zeppelin long-haired white dude in like 2006, but I have a passion for this, and I think I want to try and be a part of that world. And lots of trial and error before I let people see it or hear it. But when I started doing it, people were like, okay, how'd you learn to do that? Well, this was a big start. Also, this is one of my favorite rap verses is on this album. Winter Wars. Capadonna takes it home. Everybody else gets like 16 bars. I think he does like 56. He just like keeps going, and the verse is so deadly. Like, he probably couldn't even drop the mic all the way to the ground. It just spontaneously combusted into fire and bees. Like, it's so powerful. I highly, highly recommend. Also, Poisonous Darts, Assassination Day, Motherless Child is amazing. Black Jesus. Now that I think about it, I was just watching Last Dance. It's very possible that was he was talking about Michael Jordan. But this album is so good, and I gotta give it to Ghostface on this one. He really became his own. And all of these guys, there's so much talent in Wu-Tang Clan. Like, it's ridiculous. They're all so smart, and their styles are so varied. So to be able to stand up on your own, it's both like amazing, and you're like, yeah, that's awesome, but it's also no surprise. Like, they knew what they were doing in forming a super group and just putting out albums of their own, and everybody's happy to help out. Check this album out, especially from a lyrical standpoint. It will blow you away. And if you're not into hip hop, like, I'm sorry, but you should be. At least a little bit. Like, you gotta check this stuff out. So if you don't know, now you know. And if you don't like it, find out something that you can learn from it at the very least. So Ghostface Killah featuring Raekwon, Capadonna. I think Method Man is also on here. There's, like I said, it's like 75% of Wu-Tang's on here. Iron Man. Check it out. That is the album of the week. And now we get into our talkie. What is it? Images. What am I doing? Okay. So this image, of course, is randomly sideways. But this is a picture of the inside of my computer. And you can see the motherboard lights up. It's pretty cool, but it's simple. And the fans are spinning really fast. The CPU is under that one fan. This might look just like completely crazy. And, you know, I'm pretty proud to have built this machine. You know, I selected all the parts. I put everything together. I had to do a lot of studying to figure this out. But it was really worth it because I got a custom machine that was way cheaper because I bought all the pieces separately and installed it. You have to do a bit of research. You have to be very careful, but you can absolutely do this on your own. And it was something that I was always scared to do. There was like 2 PCs that I didn't build. I wanted to, but I just pulled the trigger anyway and got a computer. So this time around, I was like, I'm building my own machine. And, you know, you should really think about knowing what's in your computer, how it works, because as a musician, you need a computer. It is one of your greatest tools now in the modern music world. Like, you need one. So you should know how to fix it, how to take care of it, and even do some research on how to build your own. You can save a couple $100 just because you did it yourself. So don't be scared to learn a new skill or learn, you know, do some research and figure out what you need or what you want to do, and then find the right build of a computer for yourself. That's like essential. Right, we got to turn this back around because everything is hell. Dude. Oh, something else got turned perfectly. I love it. Okay. Transform, please. Thank you. So this is obviously a classic episode of Mr. Bean. I absolutely loved that show, especially when I was growing up. The classic episode where he's taking an exam and he feels like he's failing, and it turns out he had the wrong exam. He studied for calculus, and this was trigonometry. And he spent most of the test trying to figure out crazy ways to copy off of the gentleman in the blue. Obviously, if you haven't heard of Bach, I mean, it's just kind of one of those names that's just like synonymous with music. This guy basically created the system of tonal harmony that we know and still use today. And that was almost like 300 years ago. What his contributions were to melody and outlining chords, it's, you can't say enough about it. Literally every composer since 1750, you have to copy him. There's no way you can't. It was just the way that he works, and his rules of melody and counterpoint are still very much in play in the music we listen to today because he just had it. He wrote the book on music. It's insane. We had a counterpoint class in second year in music school, and the teacher, Nick Deutsch, was a fantastic professor. But teaching counterpoint, 18th century counterpoint, he said, you will never get 100% on any of your assignments or projects because you are not Bach. It's that simple. We had to write pieces and study in the style of Johann Sebastian Bach, and it was eye-opening. I'm incorporating a lot of the ideas of how to write melody into some of the melody and songwriting courses, because these are concepts that we need to really deconstruct and look at and kind of get a hold of, so that we can figure out exactly what it is that makes a melody do this or do that or get that kind of feeling. So when you know these things and you're aware of them, they become part of your toolkit, and you know how to use them effectively and authoritatively as a musician and songwriter. This here is a picture from 2016. I am the gentleman in the Cats on Synthesizers in Space shirt there in the front. This was an awesome gig. I was talking earlier about, finding house shows to play and stuff. We got a really good hookup to go play an Alto Biles show in Guelph. And it was almost like a fraternity, but it was like an artsy, fun, hippie people fraternity. This place was The Lodge, right near downtown Guelph. This party was so much fun. So many cool people there. We made a lot of good friends and good music contacts and everything. But this particular gig was special because this was the day that I found out my grandfather had passed away. We had the gig that night, and the guys asked me if I still wanted to do it, and I said yes, absolutely. I've talked about it before, but my grandfather was, a huge influence on why I decided to take a leap and go to music school. So, I wouldn't have met all these guys. I wouldn't have been doing what I did if it hadn't been for him. So I let them know, like, this is what happened. I'm playing the show. I have to do it for my grandfather. And the next day, I very sleepily climbed in a car and went, for a few days, and we prepared with the family for the funeral. But this was a really cathartic live performing experience, because I had that in my mind, and it wasn't something that got in the way. It was something that kind of inspired me and kept my focus, and still to this day it drives me. Being able to go and put on that show and remember, like, those things that he said about, if this is what makes you happy and you're doing what you love, then that's what you need to do, and build everything around that. So this picture, I love this picture just because it was a really fun time. It was a really fun night, and it was a very special, important day in my life that I will never forget. And this one, I found this in my music notes. The fundamentals of rhythm section playing in no particular order. I believe this was a note that was passed out from one of our professors at Mohawk. I think it was Pat Collins. Just incredibly talented upright bass player and piano player. He's better on piano than most people, and that's like a secondary instrument for him. He was a powerhouse. But these are really good tips to kind of get your head around playing in an ensemble, in a group. I was very lucky to be able to have him first year as an ensemble leader in music school, and he'd throw jazz charts at us and give us all kinds of helpful hints at how to properly play as a group and read each other and everything. And you should, even if you're just like, I'm a singer-songwriter, I do my thing by myself, you really need to get out and play with other people so that these steps can be achieved. These types of things only serve you as a musician and songwriter when you don't have people around, because you're considering, other people playing your music. It's not just for you. And then that becomes a much bigger experience in the music as a whole, because the audience can get part of it. Or, you start thinking about things in the future of other people playing your music, not just you. So these are like, tips to live and die by, because, stuff like be open to change within the course of a song. Don't be so rigid as to not let things happen, because that thing that happens might be so magical, might be a career defining moment that comes and you could miss it because you're like, nope, this is how it has to be. You don't want to be that. And finally, our music quote for this week from Leopold Stokowski. I believe he was the famous conductor, Leopold. But don't quote me on that, on the quote section. But a painter paints pictures on canvas, but musicians paint their pictures on silence, which is a really wonderful metaphor. Very, very artfully spoken. I really like that idea of using silence as a canvas to paint music on. Visually, when you start to think about that, I mean, it might be cliche to say stuff like that by now, but it doesn't mean it's not true. Your notes and how you apply them, that's brush strokes, right? And there's layers, and combining those layers gets you different shades and different colors and expressions, and there's so much that you can compare the art of painting and color theory and stuff with the expression of music. They're both trying to do the same thing, which is express feelings and emotions and ideas and values without words. So they're very linked in that kind of way where they're trying to speak the unspeakable. And I think that's always important to really remember. So that brings us to the end of the show. Wow, long one today. I apologize for the technical difficulties, the live feed going out there, but that's live streaming. That's how it happens. Be sure to check out our... Where did you go, my lovely? There it is. Patreon. Check our Patreon out. Be sure to become a patron. And like I said, there's simple donations, $5 a month. That's chump change. You probably spend way more on coffee and cigarettes. $10 a month, you can start voting for the content that we produce. We'll give a bunch of different things, and you can, make suggestions and vote for what you want me to talk about and what you want us to do. And once we get up to $500 a month, I can start hiring other people out to do all the crappy work that consumes me. It's not that I like it, but it gets in the way because it's too much for one person to handle. And as a business owner, I need to hand that shit off to somebody else. So once we can get up to $500 a month, the ultimate tier opens. And for $30 a month, you can get content where you get to join me in my studio here while I'm writing, and I can talk about different techniques as it's happening and explain processes and stuff. And I think that'll be really fun. So that being said, this has been M-File. You are beautiful. Be sure to do everything you can to stay true to your mission. Stay true to your message. Become the musician you are supposed to be. Make an impact and go create the music that you hear in your head. We'll see you next week.